3 questions. Am I a value-added person? Was this a value-added transaction? Are we a value-added organization? New, different, better, fast, and more. It's the only way you can do it to increase that added value, that customer service. Now, when we want to focus on our priorities, we want to produce excellent results. So we have to figure out what it is we're doing, how well we do it, what needs improvement, how can we get better, what processes can we use, what procedures, what attitudes, what aptitudes, what philosophies. We're forgetting that one of the nicest things that Jules can say to me is, thanks, Sheila, or something. You're welcome. And you know, it doesn't have to be a big deal. It just can be a hand on the shoulder. Hey, Reggie, I'm really proud you're with us in this store. You made that customer feel really good. Even if you didn't sell the bed right at that time. Hey, they may be back. But from what you did, we're going to get referrals because you were really good today. It is called the ability to build partnerships, networks, and alliances. That is the thing that will make you individually and collectively successful in this 21st century. And I, too, would like to start out by congratulating the new recipients. In our profession of speaking and training, we have an important designation that we work very hard at. And I know that you folks that have done this have put in many, many hours. And as Marcia said, the spouses and helpers also deserve the acknowledgement. So I'm delighted and honored to be here in this particular part of your program. Marcia mentioned it, and I want to share it with you. You already know it. Why? Because there's not enough time anymore to learn everything we have. Network, and we want to build those powerful alliances. The number one word, Marcia also mentioned that. I was so glad she said it because the main... That's a good one to bring into the 21st century, because I do believe that in this age, our commitment makes the difference. Girl goes out in front of her house, and those of you who may have been in sales and are in sales and have heard this, but it's a good idea. contribution that you make, those are worth defending, because if we lose that, we lose our through this designation, continuing It's just the beginning. It's the place where now you get to shine. We learn and we grow, and now it's so wonderful. We have cassettes on tape and all sorts of ways Anyway, I want to tell you what I decided to do when I retire from this speaking business. I'm going to apply to work at Walmart. I want to be a Walmart greeter. Wouldn't that be a great job? 4 hours a day, you get to stand there and hug cute little babies and shake people's hands and welcome them and give them as much help as possible. What a great way to live. We did it earlier. Marcia talked about it. We need Thank you very kindly.